Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cap Times Candidate Forum for the 78th Assembly District. My name is Andrew Bahl, and I am one of the state government reporters at the Cap Times. I will be your moderator for tonight's events. We apologize for the delay in getting started. We have had a couple technical difficulties. As usual, I'm the problem child, and my computer and Zoom were not working, but we're happy to be here now. And this is the third of six forums that the Cap Times will be hosting for each of the contested primary races for state Senate and state assembly seats representing Dane County. And we want all of you all, readers and viewers, to have the best information you can when you go to the polls on August 13th. We are obviously live on Zoom currently, but a recording will be posted on our website sometime in the next day or two. So if you have to miss part or all of the forum, or if you want to rewatch, you can do so. And we are joined tonight by the two candidates in the Democratic primary for the 78th Assembly District, Representative Shelia Stubbs and Madison School Board Vice President Maia Pearson. The 78th district includes parts of South and East Madison, the city of Monona, and part of McFarland. And the winner of this race will serve as the next representative for the 78th district, as there's no Republican candidate on the ballot. Each of our candidates will get 2 minutes for an opening and closing statement. And in between, I'll be asking them about questions important to our readers. And we actually heard from our readers directly on a lot of these issues that they're important to them when myself and my colleague went out and we talked to voters as part of the Cap Times outreach efforts for the 2024 election. And each candidate will have 90 seconds to respond to each of those questions. To get started, we flipped a coin before the start of this forum, and it was determined that Representative Stubbs will go first for her opening statement. And Representative Stubbs, you have 2 minutes starting now.
Thank you so much, Andrew, for moderating tonight's forum, and thank you to Cap Times for hosting. I am State Representative Shelia Stubbs, and it is truly an honor to serve my community and to represent my constituents. And Wisconsin State Legislature, we have a very unique opportunity in Wisconsin. Now that we have new fair maps, we can change the face of the assembly. But we need experienced, strong leaders to move forward on the values that we share. We need leaders who can get hyper-partisan leadership and levers of politics to get things done. I have served as the co-chair of the Speaker's Task Force on Racial Disparities. I've served on Dane County Board of Supervisors for 16 years, and I know firsthand what we need. This is the leadership that I will bring, and that's why Governor Tony Evers, our minority leader, Greta Neubauer, Planned Parenthood, WEAC, Adelante, Wisconsin Conservation Voters, Dane County Sheriff Calvin Barrett, former Dane County Sheriff Dave Mahoney, Madison School Board member Nikki Vandermuller, former Dane County Executive Joe Parisi, former County Executive Kathleen Falk, and a host of others have endorsed me. In the state legislature, I have a proven record of getting things done. I have authored over 25 bills that have been signed into law. My record in making change happen is unmatched in this race. And I am looking forward to representing the 78th district. And I ask you humbly to vote for me on August 13th. Thank you. And I am State Representative Shelia Stubbs.
And Vice President Pearson, we're going to head over to you for your opening statement.
Yeah, thank you. First, I would like to say thank you to Cap Times and Andrew for hosting this opportunity to let folks know more about who I am and the work that I would like to do at the Capitol in collaboration with them. My name is Maia Pearson, and I am a proud third-generation Madisonian from the South Side. I am a working mother of 3 teenagers and currently serve as a vice president of our Madison's Board of Education. I understand firsthand what it's like to live in poverty in Wisconsin, receive support from our state to make ends meet. And I know what it's like to work hard to ensure that not only my family, but my community has access to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. A state legislator is a liaison between the people and the state. They work in service to our community by bringing our community's voice to the decision-making table. Most of my career has been focused on youth development, advocating for affordable and accessible college, as well as voter rights. I have over a decade of experience working in collaborations with communities, community members, organizations, businesses, local and state and national electeds, tackling issues like the underinvestment of public education, the dismantling of worker rights, and the housing crisis, and education and action on environmental justice. I believe in meeting communities where they are and fight for policies for folks to be able to take care of themselves and their loved ones. I want to remind folks that communities of color are not monolithic. And I was raised and learned about how to ensure that leadership in every level of government should understand that and work in service to people. Record shows that not only young people that support Governor Evers and reproductive rights, but ensuring that things are culturally competent for everyone so that everyone has that opportunity to fight for their rights. And I'm honored to be running for this position.
Thank you both. And we're going to dive right into some questions. And Vice President Pearson, we're going to start with you. I sat down with both of you for a preview of this race, and if folks want to check that out, they can go to captimes.com. I'm going to pull back two questions from that, and the first one is this as a starting off point. What makes you distinct from your opponent and the best choice to represent the 78th Assembly District?
Yeah, thank you for that question. So I first want to say that Representative Stubbs has definitely made way for young Black women like myself to be able to run for office. So I just want to say that first. But also, I think what's important to understand is that I have been a community organizing, working with people every single day. I work with the community members to ensure things like that we have affordable housing in our South Madison neighborhood, that we kept our grocery store. And this is something that to me is hard work. And this is something that I've been doing for a very long time. I think also too, part of it is that from my experience as a school board member, there's 7 of us making decisions for a large budget, right? Including that our constituent base is the entire city of Madison and some parts of Fitchburg. So it's over 300,000. So my constituent base is pretty large. And so I understand as a nonpartisan, working in a nonpartisan elected position, that I have to balance all the voices of everyone in my community to ensure that I'm making the best decisions possible in my position for the school board. I also think that we need younger folks coming in who are going to make sure that we are advocating for progressive values across the board. And I do think that with my experience, my lived experience, my work with the community, my work collaboratively with electeds and others, I can bring that.
Representative Stubbs, we're going to have that same question to you. What makes you distinct in this race and the best choice for the 78th District?
Yeah, thank you for that question. First, I think leadership is really important. I served on the Dane County Board of Supervisors for 16 years. I held first vice chair, second vice chair. I chaired the Health and Human Needs Committee for 5 years. I've served as leadership on the UW Extension Committee. I've served as Sergeant at Arms. And so I've had those leadership experiences, but I will continue to work to uphold our shared values. And I have found a way to reach across the aisle to get things done and make a positive change. That takes skills, that take experience. I've been in a position to be the co-chair of the Speaker's Task Force on Racial Disparities during a very difficult time in our country and the world when Mr. Floyd was killed. I've also worked on the task force and our Capitol on human trafficking. I've also served on the Legislative Council. But I want you to know that we need to do more gridlock in the legislature or representatives who will not just or cannot get things done across the aisle. I have been a proven leader. When I'm at the doors and I hear people speak about what's happening, I am a doer. I am a woman of action. I will deliver to my constituents. I will deliver to the state of Wisconsin. And again, I have authored more than 25 bills into law. This is a remarkable record in such a divided legislature. And I am a mother, I am a grandmother, but most importantly, I am your neighbor. Thank you.
Representative Stubbs, we're going to start with you for this next question, and this is maybe an issue that we heard more about than any other. Representative, should the legislature set any new limits on abortion access beyond the restrictions currently in state law?
Thank you, because I've been hearing it at the doors. We need to repeal the 1849 law that criminalized abortion. We need to defend and protect access to abortion. It is unthinkable that in Wisconsin in 2024, the women have fewer reproductive rights. Wisconsinites overwhelmingly agree patients, not politicians, should make the decisions about their own reproductive care. In fact, I participated in the reproductive rights work group in the legislature. I am a member of the reproductive rights work group, and I joined the Reproductive Freedom Leadership Council. So not only am I a talker, I am a doer, and I am spending the time to work with legislators across the state of Wisconsin, but also across the United States to make sure that we repeal the 1849 law.
And Vice President Pearson, that same question to you.
Yes, definitely. Abortion is healthcare. And I am in agreement that we have to ensure that we repeal that archaic law as soon as possible, especially because as I'm talking to my mother, my grandmother, my daughters, their rights, they have less rights than my mother had. And that's unacceptable. That in this state, that in this current time, that families are deciding if they should have an abortion because they have endometriosis, because their life might be at risk, and they are deciding if they need to go to a different state, but also are afraid that they will be penalized and criminalized for making those decisions that's best for their family. So as I'm knocking doors, I'm also hearing that top of mind abortion rights and reproductive rights and also expansion of healthcare are on the forefronts of voters' minds. And so for me, I do think that that is one of the most important things that we get done if elected. And I think that is a priority of the Democratic Party. So.
Well, and Vice President Pearson, we're going to stay with you for this next question. What do you see as the biggest economic issue facing Dane County, and what should the legislature do to address it?
Yes, thank you. So I think right now the biggest economic issue is housing. Our community is growing expansively, and we are going to have and continue to have population booms within Dane County, specifically in Madison and Monona area. When we are having hard times in ensuring that we have the access for affordable housing and dignified affordable housing. I think that's important to mention. I think that our communities are having difficulty in ensuring that they are successful when being built because the state legislature currently in its iteration has preempted for a very long time the a decision making for our municipalities to be able to do that. So whether that is tenant rights, whether that is ensuring that there are zonings that could be changed to ensure that the affordable housing can be built. I'm hearing from folks like our mayor in Monona, Mayor O'Connor, who endorses me and definitely mentioned that it is hard for her to do her job when we constantly don't have the investment from our states and ensuring that they have the investments to put back into ensuring folks have dignified housing. So I believe that housing is one of the biggest pressing issues in Dane County currently.
And Representative Stubbs, that same question to you.
Thank you. I think a lack of affordable and safe childcare has a big economic impact and affects families, many families, and on our economy. In fact, the crisis in childcare costs Wisconsin families, our businesses, and our government about $1.9 billion with the letter B like in boy every year. The current situation is holding Wisconsin back. It's harming our children. It's stunting our economic growth. It is perpetuating disparities. Let me be clear. There is not enough child care providers. Tuition costs are rising. Wages, which are also really, really low, have to be cut. So we need to come together, businesses, employers, government, educators, local communities, and recognize that childcare should be supported and sustained like other core services. One-time funding is helping, but it's just not a long-term solution. We need to make greater, more sustainable investments in childcare and work collaboratively on solutions with the public and private sectors involved. As I've talked with employers, that is one of the number one issues that I hear is childcare. So thank you so much for that question.
Thank you both. And Representative, we're going to stay with you for this next question. In 2023, Republicans in the legislature proposed a bill that would restrict camping on public land and affect how the state distributes grant funding for entities that tackle homelessness. Is homelessness, in your mind, an issue that should be handled fundamentally at a local level, or is there a role for the state to play as well? And if so, what should that look like?
Thank you, Andrew. That's a really good question. I think the state has a role to play. Homelessness is on a rise in Wisconsin. In fact, the Department of Administration Intergovernmental Council on Homelessness brings stakeholders together, and it has its goal preventing and ending homelessness in Wisconsin. Let's be clear, we need to support municipalities as they work to reduce homelessness in their communities through more affordable housing, more shelter beds, and other initiatives. And I can say firsthand, serving on the Dane County Board of Supervisors for 16 years, we knew firsthand why it was important to create the beacon. We did that, but we also created other funds so we can transfer funds for our homeless initiatives. I think that's been really important and creative for within our communities. And so I see it. I see it when I'm downtown. I see the homeless issue at the Capitol. Let's be clear, it is a state issue, and I want to make sure I continue to be a great partner like I have been, and our state capitol being a supporter of legislation that has been forth. In fact, I was invited as a guest to DOA Interagency Council to speak on this issue. So thank you very much.
And Vice President Pearson, that same question to you.
Yeah, thank you. So I believe that this issue is an issue that has to be dealt with at every level. I think that, and it has to make sure that it is done in collaboration with each other. I think part of the issue right now around homelessness and some of the decisions that we're seeing across our nation is that homelessness is stigmatized. It's stigmatized that in a way that then ensures that the resources and the solutions that could possibly be there are not being done. In Dane County, in Madison, more specifically as my role in as a vice president of school board, as well as my day job, we have students who are homeless. 5% of our population of students are unhoused. And that number is probably even larger when you are thinking about what it looks like to then be doubling up with other families. So I think investments in temporary housing is extremely important. That can be done from the state level, also in long-term housing, as well as ensuring that some of our programs in our communities are well funded and they are able to have access to ensuring that there are housing for folks. I also think some of the things that we are seeing with tenant rights and folks who are being evicted, we need better laws around that. I think ultimately what it comes down to, because we've stigmatized homeless, we see that
Um, well, we are going to go to Representative Stubbs to start for this next question. Eh, the state legislature has not taken up legislation to look at legalizing marijuana, whether that's in recreational marijuana or medical cannabis. Uh, Representative, do you believe the legislature should do either of those things? And what is the number one priority that lawmakers should consider when addressing this issue?
Yes, I think we should legalize cannabis for both medical and recreational purposes. We should prioritize the health and safety of minors, along with efforts to mitigate the disparities that have been created from previous marijuana laws, especially for communities of color. I've signed on to several bills that have been introduced around legalizing marijuana. I've spoken on several panels. In fact, I introduced legislation to decrim marijuana. So again, I think we should legalize it. I think it's important. I think that with the economy that happens after it's legalized, I think there are a number of different services that we certainly could help. So yes, that is my final answer.
And Vice President Pearson, this question for you is looking at cannabis. And obviously, Wisconsin has not legalized cannabis in recreational or medical forms. Should the state take either of those steps? And if so, what should be the number one thing that lawmakers are considering while they address this issue?
Yes, thank you. So I do believe that we need to make sure that we are having regulations that ensure safe usage. I do support making sure that cannabis is available. I do want to ensure that we are decriminalizing it as well. We can definitely use the revenues from the sale of it to invest in our early childhood programs and mental health programming and others type of programs to support our community. I also think that when we are thinking about the decriminalization of it, making sure that we are looking at how communities of color have been disproportionately criminalized for cannabis and the usage of it. And so I think finding ways to not only make sure that we are investing in it so folks can have opportunities of entrepreneurship and making sure that we are utilizing the revenues for investments. It's also the other side of ensuring that we are making it responsible and safe, as well as decriminalizing and ensuring that our Wisconsinites have the opportunity to have some of those expunged and yes.
Thank you both. And we're going to stay with you for this next question, Vice President Pearson. The issue of maps has gotten a lot of attention, I think, in the last the last decade or so, but particularly since last December. Um, you all are obviously running in new lines, but going forward, should the Wisconsin legislature implement some sort of nonpartisan entity to draw district lines for United States Congress, the state legislature, or both?
So I'm open to supporting this because I do believe that it would allow us to have open opportunities for more transparency and inclusiveness of diverse voices. I do think that me running in this district is a product of having fairer maps. It is a product of ensuring that our community voices can be heard across our state. So we have really good folks that are running in our state for not only these positions in the state assembly, but also in Senate and other positions. So I do think having a more balanced way to ensure that folks have not only access to run for office, but that we are protecting our voting rights. So voting redistricting should be impartial. It definitely will uphold the integrity of our democracy and voter rights for our country, as well as Wisconsinites included in that. And I do believe that we should go further in preventing gerrymandering by ensuring that we are making laws preventing it for our future of democracy, especially when we have been seeing some of the things that have been coming down from our Supreme Court in the US. So I do support, and I'm open to figuring out ways that we can always make our maps better and listening to the voices of our Wisconsinites.
And Representative Stubbs, that same question to you.
Yeah, thank you for that question. I support an independent, nonpartisan redistricting process. As a former Dane County Board Supervisor, I was one of the sponsors of an ordinance that created an independent citizen redistricting commission. So not only am I talking about it, I actually voted to get something done about it. But it is important for me that any process for establishing legislative districts is independent, it's impartial, it's fair, it's accountable, and transparent. So the principle of one person, one vote is fundamental to our democracy. And I can share, since I've been in Dane County, I've worked really hard as I knock on many, many doors across this new created district. I'm hearing firsthand how important it is that after our state was so badly gerrymandered across this country, that it was about time we get fair maps. And that is why we have this newly created District 78. And in fact, my opponent, Maia Pearson, certainly has been living in the 77th. So there's been opportunity to run for any particular district. And so the 78 does not put her in a brand new district. It's just an opportunity for her to decide to run. So we probably should ask her that question. Thank you.
I am going to exercise a little bit of discretion here because, Representative, you did directly kind of call out your opponent there. And Vice President Pearson, I'm going to give you 15 seconds to directly respond to that.
Can you restate the question that she's asking?
I believe it is some, I believe it sounds like it's something to the effect of your residency in the district. Again, you were directly called out. I think it's fair to give you a chance to respond to that.
Yeah, so I did live or currently live in the District 77th for the Assembly District. And with the new maps, it definitely allowed the opportunity to be able to run. And I think that what we are seeing across the state is that folks like me may not have had the opportunity to run if we didn't have like the newer maps. And I do think, I just want to be clear, and I do want to be clear about this. The 78th is a brand new district with brand new constituencies for multiple people. And it, per the Election Commission, it is in this iteration the first time that it has seen an election. So me wanting to run for the 78th is totally viable and it's definitely open to anyone. And if I decide, then I decide. And I made that decision. So I just wanted to make that clear.
Okay. And both of you will have the opportunity to address that matter in your closing statements as well. So we are going to move on because I do have a couple more questions before we get to those closing statements. And Representative Stubbs, we're going to start with you for this. How can the state, what action can the state take to ensure that police departments in Wisconsin are fair and just in how they carry out their duties and do not engage in racial profiling?
Yeah, I think this is a really important question that you're asking because I personally firsthand can say that when I ran for this particular seat, the seat that I'm currently occupying, District 77, while I was out knocking doors, someone called the police on me just because my race was out of place. So, of course, one of the first things that I did was go to work right away in that building. I introduced a piece of legislation that I talked about unnecessarily summoning a police officer and creating a civil cause of action. I introduced that bill in 2020 because it was important for me because I wanted to make sure that as a victim of racial profiling, it doesn't happen to anyone else. But I also need to say that we need to continue to hold law enforcement leaders, officers, policymakers, and elected officials accountable as we seek bipartisan consensus on improving and reforming Wisconsin's criminal justice system. We know Wisconsin is the worst place to raise a Black family, and no one should be proud about that. We are at a home where it's most segregated metropolitan area between Black and white residents. We have the highest Black imprisonment rate in the United States. And as co-chair of the Speaker's Task Force on Racial Disparities, I introduced 18 bills. And as of now, 9 became law because it was important to work across the aisle to be strategic to get the work done. So that's what I will continue to do if elected, re-elected back into the state capitol.
And Vice President Pearson, that same question to you.
Yeah, thank you. So I think part of it is that we need to ensure that our police department and our police are having trainings around how to de-escalate in a way that ensures that the safety of our people. I think also too, part of the work that I've done at the Police Civilian Oversight Board in the exec committee was to ensure that we are considering voices not only from our community, but we're also ensuring that we are learning to work with law enforcement as well as the Police and Fire Commission and other bodies like mental health social workers and folks who can respond to crises. I think part of the problem in Wisconsin is that, as Representative Stubbs has mentioned, is that we have such a high incarceration rate of Black and brown people. And I think that that definitely fits in with the profiling that has been done. I've also been profiled as Representative Stubbs has. And I can tell you right now, it does not feel good, especially when your children are in the car and they are afraid for their lives. And what we're seeing for Black and brown people across our state, but also across our nation, is that we are constantly being over-policed in our communities. And I do think that working with law enforcement and the departments to ensure that we have culturally relevant trainings, de-escalation trainings that value people and their voices.
Vice President Pearson, we're going to stay with you for this next question, changing gears. There's been a lot of talk about federal programs, federal funding on the issue of climate change, but at the state level, what do you believe is the biggest thing the state can do on this important issue?
Yeah, thank you for this. I think for me, we have been able at the district, the school district, to be able to invest in clean energy and making sure that our buildings, making sure that when we are making investments, that our investments definitely align with sustainability. And so I think we have been able to do that work because of some of the investments that have either came from our state or investments that have came from the U.S. and the federal government. So I think at the state level, we need to continue to work on those investments in renewable energy. We need to make sure that we are passing some of the clean energy initiatives like the Clean Energy Plan and the Climate Action Plans. We also need to make sure that we are writing into legislation ways that we can continuously protect our parks and our waterways, especially when it comes to drinking water. Madison has had some of the best drinking water when I was growing up, and I think that to continue doing that, making regulations for corporations to ensure that we are keeping our waterways and our drinking water clean. I also think that there should be protections around ensuring that the greenhouse gases in our communities are not affected. Go ahead. And I'm at time, sorry.
And Representative Stubbs, that same question to you.
Thank you. I think our failure to just adequately confront climate change and slow it down is having terrible consequences right now and it threatens the future of our children and their children. And I'm honored to be endorsed by Wisconsin conservation voters and even identified as a champion. Environmental sustainability, the focus on using resources wisely now and in prioritizing how our actions affect future generations is addressed in Wisconsin Climate Action Plan and Clean Energy Plan. I support Governor Evers' focus on meeting ambitious goals for Wisconsin in sustainability. I will also continue to champion environmental justice to acts and policies do not disproportionately affect communities of color. We also have the right, we also must right past wrong. So strong environmental laws and enforcement that protect our natural resources are critical to quality life and tourism and our economy. I'll continue to put forward environmental justice and equitable treatment and active involvement in our communities of color and environmental issues and decisions. In fact, I am a member of certain groups, the Great Lakes Alliance, the Center for Climate Integrity, and the National Caucus of Environmental Legislators, because I am continuing to be seen as a champion across the state of Wisconsin. Thank you.
Well, and Representative Stubbs, we're going to start with you. This will be our last question before we move into closing statements. But Representative, starting with you, should the state end its school choice programs in Milwaukee, Racine, and the statewide program? And should it, if so, should the state be reinvesting those funds in K through 12 public schools?
Yeah, I think that it's really important to talk about what's happening. I certainly serve on the Assembly Committee on Colleges and Universities, and I understand how important it is to have funding and to take care of our schools. I certainly serve currently right now as a member of the Colleges and Universities Committee. And I'm honored to be endorsed by WEAC, which represents public school educators across the state. I support our public schools. We've made historic investments in public schools and the last budgets, and we need to continue to do more, funding two systems of education in Wisconsin, our public schools and our voucher schools out of a limited budget undermines our public schools. We appreciate the value of our public schools. The challenges students face is deep. As an adjunct professor of Mount Scenario College that I served, and as I work with adult students, I understand some of the barriers. I'm also a former special education teacher at our Madison school district, so I know firsthand that the state should reimburse special education costs at a much higher rate than we do, about 32%. So underfunding mandated programs create budget pressures and lead and putting programs against each other. And I support Governor Evers' budget and prioritize public education. And while we have made progress, reversing years of neglect, that is much more that must be done. So we must continue to fund and we must continue to focus on the disparities in our education. Thank you.
Vice President Pearson, that same question to you.
Yeah, thank you. This is an issue that I am very closely working with all the time. I have a joke that I am thinking about education when I wake up in the morning, and I think about education when I go to bed. I believe that, yes, we need to stop those investments and reinvest that, make the reinvestment into public education. And I think I'm proud of the investments of our district in making sure that we have expanded 4K programming for our young children, because we know that when we invest in early childcare and we invest in early education, our youth grow up to be critical thinkers, and they become more informed adults, and they become stronger adults, and they go to college, and they are the future of our workforce. And so I think investing in public education is extremely important. I also think that there's a statement that about 80% of our public ed K-12 graduates go to public universities. Of those public universities, a large number of those folks stay in our state. And so again, public education, whether it is K-12 or it is higher education, those investments are crucial for our viability as a state, not only in our workforce, but also for economic development in our state as well. I do think that with some of those investments, we can invest in universal 4K programs across the state, as well as universal free school lunch meals.
Thank you both. And now I think we're going to move into closing statements. And Vice President Pearson, we'll start with you, and you have 2 minutes starting now.
Thank you. With our new fair maps and the barriers broken by people like my opponent, this is what democracy looks like. A young, Black, working mother having the opportunity to run for a newly established assembly district that includes 5 municipalities, and for the possibility to be its first assembly member elected to the Capitol to represent it and move our state forward. So I'm running for Wisconsin State Assembly because we do deserve to be fought for. As I have been knocking doors, folks have expressed strongly that we are tired of a Wisconsin that is not working for everyone. They're tired of folks fighting. They want true representation that is authentic, who is going to ensure that they are working collaboratively across the board, no matter if it's local electeds or state electeds, that we want to make sure that we are getting things done. And we have that opportunity to deliver what Wisconsinites have been asking for, from access to affordable childcare and stronger worker rights, a well-funded public education and reproductive freedom, from dignified, affordable housing and environmental justice. And I'm proud of the work that I have done in helping working families in our state. And I know that there is more that can be done. I would be grateful for the opportunity to work alongside you, the District 78, as well as ensure that our collective future is bright and strong. And I am proud to have endorsements like the mayor of Monona. I'm proud to have endorsements from multiple Dane County supervisors who worked with my opponent. I am definitely proud of ensuring that we have representation from multiple municipalities in the 78th, including some of our alders in Madison and Monona and Fitchburg. So I do think that making sure that we have folks who are willing to work across lines, but also work with our community authentically is extremely important. And I definitely believe that I can do that and ensure that those voices are being heard.
Representative Stubbs, you have the last word, and 2 minutes starting now.
Thank you so much for this opportunity, Andrew. I am the first African American ever elected to our Wisconsin State Legislature from Dane County. I broke 170 years of history. I hit the floor day one, going to work for our constituents. I've served in our state legislature for 6 years, and I hope to return back to continue the work that I've started. But it's important in times like this, when there are both opportunities and challenges, my experience, my strong voice, and the ability to work across the aisle to get things done is what is most needed. Democrats are so excited and fired up about the new maps and the chance to move Wisconsin forward. And voters know I deliver. My campaign has a strong grassroots presence throughout the district. And when I visit, when I knock on doors with voters, they tell me they appreciate that I am a fighter for our shared values. They appreciate it that I have always been able to accomplish. They appreciate that I've been able to create bipartisan agreement on issues and break through gridlock to get things done. I am the only candidate in this race with a proven record in working across the aisle. I am honored to be endorsed by Governor Tony Evers, Minority Leader Greta Neubauer, Planned Parenthood, We Act, Wisconsin Conservation Voters, Adelante, former County Executive Joe Parisi, former County Executive Kathleen Fogg, Dane County Sheriff Calvin Barrett, former Dane County Sheriff Dave Mahoney, Madison School Board member Nikki Vandermeulen, and so many more. I would appreciate your vote and trust and the confidence on August 13th. Thank you so much for listening. And please visit my website, SheliaStubbsForAssembly.com, to learn more. Thank you so much.
We'd like to thank both candidates for joining us tonight, State Representative Shelia Stubbs and Madison School Board Vice President Maia Pearson. They're the two candidates in the 78th Assembly District in the Democratic primary. If you're in the 78th District or anywhere else in Dane County, be sure to go out and vote on August 13th, and captimes.com has you covered on everything you need to know to do just that. Thanks to both of our candidates. Thanks to you all for watching, and have a great night, everyone.